Blue Protocol Star Resonance is not what you think it is. One look and you probably think it's a character collecting gacha game where you need to dump loads of resources to increase your character's level. Well, you'd be wrong. You actually get to create your own character from scratch and you simply level up by playing the game. Surprising, I know. I actually thought the same thing, but after getting early access to the game and playing through its opening chapters, I was shocked not only by how free-to-play friendly it is, but also how fun it is. So in this video, I'll be sharing my experience with the game so far and what you can expect from it. And special thanks to A+ Japan for giving me early access to play and for sponsoring this video. Blue Protocol Star Resonance is out today for free on PC, iOS, and Android, and it includes crossplay. Check out my link in the description to download and start playing today.
ここは交易都市アステルリーズ。活気と驚きに満ちた街よ。
Now, one thing I want to get into right away is the character creator, because it's the first thing you do when you boot up the game. And I have to say, I've played a lot of games with a lot of different character creators, and this has to be one of the most in-depth ones I've ever experienced. First, you choose whether you want to be male or female, your height, and then you can go into all kinds of granular details like your hairstyle, but not just your hairstyle. Like you can pick some pre-made ones, but you can kind of make your own custom styles, like what it looks like from the front, what it looks like from the back, and what it looks like from the top. So you can get really crazy with it if you really want to. There's also tons of different colors you can choose from. There's gradients if you want to mess with that. You can customize your eyes and your eye color. And let me tell you, there's so many different kinds of iris designs. I felt like you could just get lost in that forever, depending on how much you want to customize your character. There's also tons of little small details like freckles or makeup or scars or things like that. So you could make a warrior guy like this, but here's what I made. Pretty cute, right? I decided to make her like this because, well, these are the channel colors and I just thought she looked really cool. Next, you'll choose your character class. And right now there's 8 different classes to choose from, and I'll give a brief rundown of each. First, you have the Heavy Guardian, your typical warrior tank class, close range fighter. They have a shield and this like double-ended sword that's pretty cool. You have a marksman that's DPS, archer, typical character, but they can also summon animals to fight alongside you. Next, you have a Frost Mage, which is pretty self-explanatory, and there are 2 specs you can choose from. There's like more of an icicle one or like a big frost beam, so if you kind of want to differentiate, it allows you to do that. You have a Shield Knight, which is basically a Heavy Guardian, but it can heal itself, so think like a paladin type character. There's the Wind Knight, which is sort of a speedy lancer fighter character, and they attack with a lot of wind energy. There's the Stormblade, which swaps between a scythe and a sword, and there's like dark energy. That looks pretty sick. You also have a Beat Performer, which is kind of like a bard character if you want to think of it like that. Very support heavy, it can throw out heals and buffs, and you fight with a guitar, which is pretty awesome. But what I chose to go with was the Verdant Oracle, where you can kind of attack with vines and you heal with like kind of nature-esque abilities. In MMOs, I always loved playing the healer class, so being able to attack with like nature-esque abilities and then be able to heal, I just thought that'd be a fun class to play. Now, as far as the story goes, when you start off the game, you wake up in this mysterious city, and there's this character named Erona that saved you, and she put you up in this tavern. Now, she seems to have racked up a bit of a debt, and the tavern owner seems kind of mad, so at the beginning, you're kind of figuring all this out and trying to figure out a way how to pay back your tavern debt. But what's also cool is right when this is all happening, there is a big festival going on in the city that you start out in. And this town is pretty huge, lots of different districts. It's amazing to walk around in. I just had a lot of fun exploring. And a big part of that is how your character can move through the world. At the beginning, there's a double jump. You can sort of like run up the walls or kind of bounce off the walls. I'll get into more of that a little bit later. And after you go through the festival and you kind of learn the tutorial of the game and figure out how to play, you can then go into the open world of Magna. And there you'll get your first taste of fighting enemies. And that was really, really satisfying. I'll get into combat in just a little bit, but it feels really good. There's also all kinds of different open world activities. Like there's these little chests everywhere and then give you parts for crafting or to spend on the shop or whatever. And sometimes there's even gear in it. There's these little fast travel points that you can unlock as you explore more. There's high level bosses that drop better gear. And then also eventually I did get a mount. Now at the beginning, I got this small boar and I thought it looked really funny because my character was so much bigger than this boar. I almost felt bad for it, like I was going to crush it or something. But then later on, I got a giant rabbit that I could ride around on, and that was a little bit cooler. But there are a ton of different mounts you can get in this game, from golems to horses, all kinds of stuff, a turtle. So whatever you want for a mount, there's probably a way to get something pretty cool. Now, I don't want to spoil the story, but I will say that once I got to the second chapter, this is really where the game opens up, lets you off the leash, more activities unlock, and honestly where the story picks up as well. And the story cutscenes are pretty dynamically composed, lots of cool camera movements, a lot of great animations. And from there, I got into some side quests. There are these instance fights that drop better gear. There's also tons of daily, weekly activities, more to do in the open world, basically a lot to keep you busy. But for me, one of the biggest highlights of the game is the combat. Now again, I want to clarify something. This is an MMO, not a free-to-play gacha type game. So you have your character that you create and you can go out into the world, you can play by yourself, but then there's also these instance bosses that you can play with other people, or you can play solo with like AI companions, which is nice. And the combat here is much more action focused than the sort of sit and wait like a typical MMO. Now I prefer typically playing with a controller versus a mouse and keyboard, but the mouse and keyboard controls here are very intuitive and felt really good. Dodging is mapped to the right click button, so it feels really intuitive to kind of use, WASD to move around and then to click to dodge. That felt good, and then the left click is doing your basic attack. Of course, you have your typical combat bar like you would in any MMO that are all on cooldown. For me, I had this attack that I shot out like big vines, healed me a little bit. I had a couple like sustained casting attacks. I had some healing over time spells, and then I had this like special ability that was on a longer cooldown that gave me the shields and healed me a little bit, and I think increased my strength as well. And as the game goes on, you can also unlock new abilities and level up your current ones, so you can kind of kit out your character how you want. And also you can summon monsters for special attacks that you fought throughout the game, which is pretty sick. Now honestly, for normal enemies where you're just going out and like killing 5 of something, they were pretty fun. I enjoyed doing that quite a bit, but to me, the real highlight were the higher level bosses. I stumbled across this boar while just exploring, but it ended up being a really fun and challenging fight where it has the lines on the ground and you have to dodge at just the right time. It ended up dropping some really good gear. And then at some point, there's these sort of like instance teleporters, and I went through a couple of them. There was this guy named Denville that had all this dark energy and I had to dodge out of the way. There's also this sort of like bigger mini world where you're going around, you have to defeat a certain number of enemies before it unlocks the bigger boss, which is this dragon. And then I did the same thing with this goblin hideout. Overall, I have to say, I was blown away by the combat. I was expecting it to be typical MMO combat, like kind of slow, kind of sitting there, but for me, I loved it. It felt really intuitive, especially on mouse and keyboard, which was really surprising to me. If you like action games, this is going to be an absolute blast. And like I mentioned before, you just level up by playing. Once you complete certain quests or defeat a certain amount of enemies, the game will just level up your character. And then every so many levels, you get new passive abilities like you do more damage or your healing increase or whatever fits the class that you picked. And then the other really cool thing that I loved is you can also unlock new traversal abilities the more that you level up. I eventually unlocked a triple jump, but I was looking down the tree and there's a quadruple jump, a quintuple jump, wall running, all kinds of crazy stuff. So if you like action games with unique movement mechanics, then you're definitely going to dig it here in Blue Protocol. Now throughout the game, obviously you're going to be picking up different pieces of gear. You have your chest piece, your boots, your armlets, your helmet, things like that. And you can get it just by playing through the game, normally like defeating bosses or opening up chests. And the game really does seem to be about expressing yourself through your gear. And as someone that loves customizing gear in RPGs, I really loved it here, and it was really fun hunting for different gear and trying out different pieces to see what looked the coolest. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, well, if Blue Protocol is free to play, there's no character gacha, how does it make money? Well, most of it is in the cosmetic items with paid shops, and there are a ton of different costumes. I mean, a ton. I've never seen so many in a game like this. Everything you can imagine, from fantasy, futuristic, Japanese inspired, and everything in between. Now, you can earn currency just by playing, or you could spend real money to get the costumes or the pieces you really want. Again, it's completely optional. It's not going to really be pay to win because it's all PvE content anyway. But like I said, you can also get tons of cool looking gear just by playing the game normally. And the game gives you tons of ways to earn currency and cosmetic gears with daily and weekly activities, a free battle pass, seasonal events, and much more. I was actually pretty blown away by how free-to-play friendly this game is. Now, when you're not exploring the world or you're getting into combat, there's a ton of different life skills. In fact, there's 9 in total, and there's the ones you'd expect like collecting, alchemy, cooking, things like that. So if you like those side skills that you've come to expect in MMOs or just maybe cozy games or other games like this, there's something there for you, and it's pretty deep, and to say the least, there's just a ton to keep you busy here. Overall, I really enjoyed my time with the opening chapters of Blue Protocol Star Resonance. It has an amazing character creator, fantastic combat, insane gear customization, and a pretty fun variety of activities to keep you busy for dozens of hours. I'm honestly pretty blown away with what's available here, especially in a free game. If any of this looks cool and you want to check it out, Blue Protocol Star Resonance is available today for PC via Steam and the Epic Games Store, iOS, and Android. Plus, it's crossplay. Click the link in the description to download and start playing today.